We had an open mic called Deal Real, which you may have gone to at some point,
Hmm.
in Carnaby Street. And so we'd battle there. First time I went there, I developed a reputation in my college for rapping and sort of battling people. And so a friend of mine said, "You've got to come to the open mic." So I went to the open mic. And first time I went, I said, "Oh, my name's Lowkey." The host was like, "Oh, there's another guy called Lowkey." I was like, "Okay, I need to battle him for the name." So I battled him and I won. So then I kept the name and I sort of kept going and going and going. And I treated it with a seriousness which was obsessive. I'd write lyrics during the week and I'd spend every single waking moment memorizing those lyrics just so I could go and rap in a room with 20 men. Sort of, and I had this kind of, I don't know why I wanted to stare everybody down. So I used to rap and sort of in this weird confrontational way, just stare in everyone's eyes. Must have seemed quite intense, but it did develop a bit of a following. And then I pressed up CDs and then sold the CDs outside the shop, got in like Hip Hop Connection magazine and stuff like that. And then I eventually, within a year, got onto the Friday Night Flavors show, where they called it, I think, Knights of the Round Table. So I went on with Swiss from So Solid, and we went back to back for like 45 minutes. Um, I miss having that level of love for, being a wordsmith, because it is something that, as you know, I'm sure you know too, once it becomes a job, that you feed yourself and your family off, it does change the sort of relationship that you have with it.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, one time I saw the brother Rhymefest was running for city government in Chicago, and he asked me to come through and I did, and we did a show in Chicago. Did this big sold out show, super dope. And but while I was there, I got to kick it with him for a few days when he was on the campaign trail. And this is like local Chicago city politics. And so the other people that he was running against, they would come through and they had like debates in like basements of churches and things like that. And they would come
Yeah,
at him with all of these wild, the little things that they had pulled out, found from his past, or, some little dirt that they would try to sling on him. And none of them could
right.
handle him in a debate. And I remember I was just asking him, like, man, this is incredible. Like, you've never done this before. You never did speeches or debate or anything. And he's like, man, we battle on the mic. Like, Rhymefest battled Eminem and Juice, like live off the top of the head at Scribble Jam. He's
Wow.
like, man, this stuff is nothing. These people are not ready for
Yeah,
any of
yeah,
us. And if we were
yeah,
able
yeah,
to
yeah.
actually mobilize MCs to be able to come into these environments. And brother, when I watch you, and especially knowing something about your story and how passionate it is for real, and how visceral and embodied it is for you, like your ability to maintain absolute focus, calm, so that you are able to be a precision, like a marksman with your words. The way that people try to derail you, like I'm talking about like very high level journalists that talk to people who are pundits for a living. In my mind, I'm looking at you and I'm like, man, that's that MC training. You know what I mean? Like this man is able to control himself, his body, regulate his reactions. You know what I mean? So how much of that is directly related to MCing, or was it that, something else in your personality, some other type of discipline that you brought into the MCing as well?
Thank you, bro. That's very kind. And I think partly it's definitely down to the MCing. I think also partly it's down to martial arts. I've
Mm.
studied a few different martial arts, but the main one that I've stayed on is Nampai Chum, form of Shaolin Kung Fu, which I've studied for, I would say, 11, 12 years. And so doing that, I think, has helped train my nervous system to remain calm in kind of high, intense situations. But also, what I would say has contributed to that is having a clarity about what the political purpose of what this person is doing. That's something that I didn't have in those days when I was rapping before, and I went through the arrest and stuff like that in 2012. I wasn't able to fully understand what the political purpose of what was being done to me was. I didn't see myself as part of a larger movement. I saw myself as just me. I was kind of in that, I would say, narcissistic stage where I'm sort of focusing on my own pain and what I'm going through. But I wasn't saying, okay, so what I think you may be referring to is the recent interview I had with Piers Morgan. And in it, I think the reason why I was able to stay focused with him was because I knew what he was going to do. And I also knew what the purpose of what he was doing was. He was essentially trying to expel me outside the realms of rationality. He was trying to delegitimize me. He was trying to sort of depict me as somehow morally inferior. But why was he doing that? He was doing that to discredit a whole group of people that number around 12 million, their legitimate aspirations. So once you understand that, okay, this is why they're trying to do it, you kind of focus a little bit less on the form it comes in, because you just understand, well, this is what he's going to do. This is the function of this. You know, we exist at a time where, unfortunately, if you are speaking up for Palestinian rights or you're speaking up on major points that are digressing from the mainstream elite narrative, the majority of interview requests you'll get will essentially be setups and traps to try and sort of harm you in some way, and in some cases actually ruin your life. That's the reality of where we are as a society, is that these mainstream media platforms, they want to ruin the life of young people that speak out in particular ways. And, you know, by now I'm old enough to have kind of learned a little bit, I would say.
Yeah.
Palestinians are reaching out from the cage that Israel has put them in, and they are trying to speak to the world.
Yeah,
and they are
I'm
being met.
saying
They are being
that's
met
fine.
with cold indifference. And I would say to you, Piers, I would say to you that gentleman that you've just had on the show, Mark Regev, he belongs in The Hague. David Petraeus, you know, Piers, you made your reputation as opposing the invasion of Iraq. Well, I would ask you, journalist to journalist, how could you justify the interview you just gave to the head of US forces in that illegal occupation of Iraq that David Petraeus led? He was then the head of the CIA. Both of the individuals that you have just had on this show deserve to be in The Hague, tried for war crimes. I am not anything like them. I have not hurt a fly. Those two men have. Why are they given the respectability that you gave them with your interview? And why am I interrogated as if I am somehow someone that could hurt a human being?